Some people have seen where God has brought you from. They don't really understand it. They don't know your story.
You don't know my story.
You don't know
The things.
You don't know the things that I've come through.
You cannot imagine.
Cannot imagine.
Wow. And that's the benefit of being a double major, because I take 2 philosophy classes, 2 psychology classes. Both of them overlap, and then I can interlock them, and then I can bring in psychological insights into the philosophy, and then I can take out philosophical insights and put them into the psychology.
Shut up now. Oh, don't shut up. Keep talking. Yo.
Just saying. I mean,
that's good, man. That's good.
Once it's a masterpiece.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. That's good that you can see it as such.
If I can make it work, if I can really get it together, I may go see a learning specialist and kind of get my act together, you know.
Right.
I think that we can see some exponential growth, some exponential intellectual growth. And also I'm getting involved with a lot of different groups on campus, and that'll be beneficial for me.
Right.
Because I didn't have that kind of core support group my freshman year, so then when things started to fall apart, I didn't have anything to fall back on. So, you know, I've been at my worst, I've been at my best. Now I'm kind of somewhere in the middle, but I want to push myself even harder this semester and get up there and get some, hopefully, A's and A pluses.
I hear you talk about being having 2 majors. There were some struggles last year. I had to drop 1 class. What are some of the challenges and struggles that you have succumbed, you've overcome, you're working through?
Oh, man.
That even got you back to here now?
Struggle.
You didn't think you was going to be back here.
Everything's a struggle. Everything's a constant struggle. You know, I live each and every day as itself, and you know, I try as much as I can to plan out and look towards the future, but it's still sometimes a struggle every day just to get up and get moving and find the motivation to do things and find the motivation to be active and to study and to keep on top of things. But you know, I would say this is how I equated to a freshman girl I was talking to. The first struggle was to get into Emory. Emory is the 20th top ranked school in the nation, college-wise. And being number 20 means that there are a lot of people underneath you, and there's only 19 better than you.
Right.
So this is a competitive environment. This is a research environment. This is a very values-based driven school. There's people from all around the world that are trying to get into this school. People from China, people from Japan, people from Korea. So the first struggle was to get in. You know, usually college admissions looks at 2 things. They look at your test scores and they look at your GPA from high school. And I was fortunate enough, you know, I think so, to be born African American, and being in the minority status, I think that had a role in me being able to even get into Emory. But my test scores were pretty good. My GPA wasn't that great. I only had maybe a 3.2 or a 3.3. So Emory was a school that I was really reaching out for. I wasn't just comfortably, it wasn't in my grasp, and I was just kind of comfortable with the idea of Emory when I applied. I applied to Emory with the expectation that I wouldn't get in. And then when I got accepted, that was the first hurdle. And I thought that was it. I was like, okay, I'm in college, you know, I'm here to stay, you know,
Right.
you guys have brought me here.
Right.
No, but the second struggle is staying there.
Yeah.
Staying there and staying well and staying competitive and staying sharp. Those things are the kind of things that Emory students have to worry about. And being in a top 20 school, you're competing not only against yourself, but against these other kids who have guaranteed, you know, certain levels of GPAs or certain level of test scores, and it's intimidating. It's an intimidating environment, and there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure. So pressure for growth in school. But that was a second hurdle,
Right.
and that still is a second hurdle for me as a rising sophomore. I'm still having to essentially prove myself to Emory. But for me, really, there was a third struggle, and that was kind of encompassed by the second struggle, and that was in staying at Emory, because Emory is an expensive school.
Very expensive.
The base cost of living at Emory is about $60,000.
You said six?
$60,000.
$60,000.
$60,000. And really, we couldn't afford that. That wasn't an option for us.
Who's we?
My family and I.
Right.
And what was happening is that my mom became unemployed. She was settling in a disability lawsuit, essentially, against her previous worker. And my dad had just started up a new private practice, and his business was kind of shaky at best. So we didn't really have a really stable guesstimate of income.
Right.
And the first year at Emory, academically wise, I did pretty well. I stayed there. I kept Hope Scholarship. I maintained a shred of my mental stability. I lost probably about 80% of it. But financially, Emory wanted us to pay something like $40,000 out of pocket for the first year.
Wow.
So that's $20,000 a semester, or $5,000 a month when you break it down, which is very expensive. And that's not even counting money that's going to textbooks, money that's going towards
That's not
school
including the books?
supplies. No, that's room and board, laundry, food, and tuition. Yeah, tuition itself is $20,000 a semester. So we went through the first year. The first semester we paid for up front, $20,000 cash, a brand new car, gone. Just that fast. And see, I was thinking about it in terms of cars, because I had just gotten a car.
Right.
And I was thinking, hold up, you just wrote me a check for a brand new car.
Right.
And I'm paying this to a college for a semester. And something was wrong. When I started to look at it that way, I started to realize something would be wrong, and something would be that this would be an issue continuously, and it just bugged me ever since then. And
something just hit me. The difference between you and a car with that investment is that a car depreciates as soon as you take it off the lot. You continue to advance and increase with that investment. I mean, that's how I look at it. So, kudos to your choice.
it comes at a cost. It all comes at a cost.
Everything.
You paying this kind of money to go to a top school just to lose your mental stability and to lose what you thought were the core parts of you, and to bring out and question everything in existence. That's a mighty cost, I think.
You think
Mighty
that?
personal cost.
Are you saying that being at the school and the pressure with the school actually affected you mentally?
I would say so, yes. If not, I don't think that it caused any mental instability itself, but I think it exacerbated some kinds of underlying mental problems that I had issues with in the past, especially depression.
Right.
And depression is one of those things that escalates. Once
Right.
you start to get depressive, your grades start to slip. Once your grades start to slip, if your self-esteem is based on your grades, then your self-esteem starts to kind of dwindle and dwindle and dwindle, and then your sense of self starts to shatter. And then once you shatter your sense of self, then you don't even know who you are anymore. And then you're left depressed without any energy to go out and find new hobbies to redefine yourself. So not only is there a large financial
powerful.
cost,
That's powerful.
there's a spiritual cost too.
Mhm.
And the spiritual cost is one I'm still paying, and I'm still paying, and still paying, and will be paying, and will be paying. And the
In what way?
physical cost, well, the any kind of study that's pursued for very intensely, especially for a short period of time, I think that when you start to cut corners and you start cutting hours off of your sleep and you start cutting corners with eating meals and you start cutting corners with how many friends you have and hang out with, and you start to take your basic needs and kind of minimize them and then put all of your energy towards your work and your study, there were times where I would essentially go so hard, pardon the phrase, that I would crack, and my mental stability was the last thing to go. First, I would lose my physical stability. My physical health would decline, and I would get sick, and I would get tired, and I would get dragged down, and I just wouldn't have the energy to keep up. So those are some aspects of the personal cost that we said.
Do you feel that a lot of pressure is on you to, I know you said to maintain, but to save face, in the sense that you stepped out, you had Emory, like I told you, even myself, not knowing that it could possibly even be pressure to you. Every time now Emory, I hear Emory, see Emory, I associate it to you. Of course, my association caused me to declare some things for you, that prosperity be upon you while you're there. But that association with you and people knowing you at Emory, people in your family, friends, oh, you at Emory? Does that put some kind of added pressure to what you already have to deal with?
No,
Okay, that's good.
not for me.
Okay.
I'm the kind of person who, if I'm away from it all,
Right.
and if I'm at Emory, then all that I'm focused on is me and how I feel about my grades,
That's good.
and I'm focused on Emory.
Okay.
So, other people thinking about me at Emory, I don't worry about it too much.
That's good. That's good. That's usually something that causes a lot of people to, that causes some people to become depressed, and actually creates problems and barriers for some people just focusing and being the best them they can be, because they're putting too many other people into the equation, you know. But you said also not only physically but financially. So how was coming into this year? I mean, did you know? I mean, you had a steep bill. How was that pressure financially upon you?
Man. The financial pressure was the worst because it was the pressure I could do the least about.
Wow.
It was the pressure that was constantly there, but it was the pressure that I really didn't have much power in my hands that I felt that I could do to change it. And the fact is, I didn't know that I was coming back. I didn't know that I was going to be back for my sophomore year.
You did or didn't?
I did not.
Okay.
And
Did you want to come back?
I wanted to come back.
Okay.
And we were about $7,000 in the hole coming out of the spring semester.
Mm.
And like we said, my brother's going off to France, and so there's money that has to be paid towards his trip. So there was money going out to pay for that, and there was money that went out over the summer to rent some people out to help clean out the house. And there was some money that went out during the winter to get the heat turned on and to get the house heating system hooked up. So those are kind of all the events that kind of led to us getting behind on bills.
Right.
And really, it's hard for me to sit down and tell the story because from when I look at it from an outside perspective, it's like, okay, you had a $7,000 debt. Well, what did you do? Because obviously it was resolved somehow. And really, I don't know how much of me there was at play. I'm not sure how much of that money is from me. I'm not sure how much of that money is because of me. But what's important is that it was there, and it was there when it was needed to be there, and it came at the right time. I met some wonderful people at Emory. There was a lady named Dr. Livingston, and I was getting ready to sign a form saying that I would take a leave of absence and I wouldn't be returning for the fall semester because I wanted to enroll in their EMT course as a backup plan so that I would have something to do during the fall. But as I was going down to take this leave of absence form, to sign it and get it over with and done with, you know, I had some questions about the student health insurance and whether I'd be able to be covered by my student health insurance, because really I talk about losing my mental stability. Well, I had all these doctors that I was seeing and all these therapists, and I was having to pay them different amounts of money, and I was taking all these medications, and I was having to pay all these different kinds of money for the medications, and really the insurance was paying a large portion of that. You know, the insurance company paid itself over probably 10 times in the amount of money that it spent to take care of me.
What are you
during my
seeing
first
doctors
year
for?
at Emory.
Seeing doctors for what?
Right now my current clinical diagnoses are just bipolar disorder, ADHD, and a couple of other few things. Nothing major. I used to have a substance abuse problem, but that's not an issue now. But I went to go ask about this insurance, and the lady told me, she said, well, hold on, you don't have to fill out this leave of absence form. Just let's sit down and let's talk and give us a minute. And her name was Adrienne Slaughter, and she was a case manager at Emory, and we sat down and we talked, and then she referred me over to Dr. Livingston, whom I had met earlier in the semester, who had actually walked me over to the student counseling center, and that's where I got my first therapist. And Dr. Livingston said, she took a look at my account and said that the balance wasn't too bad and that she would take care of it. Now me, I'm just like, what? Excuse me? You know, like, you're just gonna take care of it? Like
Oh my
that?
God.
Yeah, Dunkin' Donuts, and I shook his hand, and he gave me a job.
Right.
So he had hired me, and so I've had a constant job since I started Emory.
Right.
And I wouldn't have known Dr. Livingston if it hadn't been for him, because he was the original person who referred me to Dr.
But you met him because you went to Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you order that day?
I had, let's see, I think I had an iced coffee. I think I had a large iced coffee.
Okay.
And I think I had a glazed donut.
And so did he initiate the meeting? He reached out to you first, you to him? How did that happen?
It was pretty mutual.
Okay.
It was pretty mutual. It was kind of like I glanced at him and then glanced away and then
Right.
glanced back and then ended up walking up to him and shaking his hand and what have you. But
You were glancing at your glory, because God has a way of, on our path, you're a critical thinker, and things and people on our path are critical to our journey. You are evident. This story here is so much evidence of that. I mean, the very places that we go, the people that we are around, we don't know how instrumental they play in our life's journey. We judge a book by its cover. We think, okay, that person can't help me, or that's just somebody in line too. You know, and a conversation can, wow, man, in Dunkin' Donuts, one person led to the next that eventually, after days and weeks, you know, came back to your need.
And I'll take care of it.
And I'll take care of it. Wow.
Let me tell you,
Wow.
I've never seen a group of people, high-powered people, on a team together,
Wow.
really wanting to get one thing. They can get that one thing that they want.
Right.
They gave me an additional $4,500 in student loans initially, just right off the bat. Just all of a sudden, I was meeting with the director of financial aid. I skipped every middleman there was, went straight to the director, and went and talked with him. Gave me $4,500, and then as the semester was rolling around, I had to register late, and I didn't know how I was going to do that, and I got registered on time, and they actually awarded me a $2,200 grant for last year's spring semester, so that, or this past spring semester, so spring 2014, so that it would bring my account balance down to zero so that I could enroll.
They awarded you money for something that you previously owed,
Yeah.
so that you can move forward.
Yes.
So they took care of your past so you can have a future.
Yes.
Come on, man. Who does that? Who does? Who does? You know, usually you hear, man, I want to help you. I can help you with this moving forward, but you got this right here holding you back, so I'll take care of that too. Man, come on.
So we didn't get the financial aid back on time for the fall semester.
Right.
So this year, and we ended up submitting an appeal for it, and we ended up appealing the financial aid, and we get it back. And Emory brought down their cost of attendance for our family from $60,000 to $12,500.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. I got a little bit over $40,000 in pure grant money to go to Emory this year.
Man. What do you accredit this to? I mean, it wasn't a donut because you didn't buy a donut. It wasn't the coffee. Shook the hand, conversated, one person to the next. I hear several things. What do you accredit this to? Somebody sees something in you, man. Somebody sees something in you. I don't even know if you really see it in yourself, but what I will say, in spite of everything you have been dealing with and going through, and one thing I saw from you initially, and I still see it, I see perseverance, I see this press, I see this tenacity, you know, in you. And anybody who talks to you, they are able to identify something more profound lies in this vessel. This is not your average 20-year-old. 19 or 20?
19.
19. Not your average. But at the age of 19, what do you accredit this to? Because first of all, I think it's remarkable that you're able to, acknowledge and put the pieces together, you know? Be able to identify and see these different occurrences, how they have some kind of way worked together, or at different junctions, you know, been a part of your destiny, your path. What do you accredit this to?
I could accredit it to my unhealthy eating habits.
Have mercy. Have mercy. No vegetables.
But, you know, but then I have these unhealthy eating habits because somebody blessed me with high metabolism. So I never had to worry about what I ate.
Right. Because they're going to be with you long.
Man, see, you just reminded me that I have a fortune cookie in my pocket, and I'm dying to open it and see what's inside it.
What does your fortune cookie say?
I don't know. Let's see what it says.
What does the fortune cookie say? I'm interested to know right now at this moment. What does the fortune cookie say? Is it crumbs? Is it still... So you eat fortune cookies?
I actually
Because I actually just get the fortune out of them.
I eat the fortune cookies.
Really? They're good?
Yeah.
Okay. You like the sweet
I mean, they're
taste?
pretty crunchy, yeah.
Okay.
Have you ever had them?
I've had them before. I try to, I think it's important to just, I don't know, just me.
This is either
at
going to
least
blow
take a
you away
bite.
or it's going to be unimpressive.
I think it's important to just take a bite of the fortune that I'm reading. So what is your fortune?
You don't want to bite off half the fortune.
You want to eat the whole thing out. You might be giving me a whole new mind frame with my fortune. Because you know what? Maybe the fortune is yours if you consume the whole cookie.
It says don't be afraid of fear.
It says don't be afraid of fear. That's it? Wow.
Don't be afraid of fear.
Don't be afraid of fear. That's powerful. That is powerful. That's a message right there. Have you ever found yourself being afraid of fear? Because it, you know, it's almost,
See,
it's like,
I'm not afraid of a lot, but I'm afraid of being afraid.
that's exactly what it is. It's simple. You're afraid of being afraid.
Fear breeds uncertainty. Fear breeds doubt. Fear breeds a lack of movement. It breeds a host of things that you don't want. And the more afraid you get, the more frozen you get.
What are you most fearful of?
Really, honestly and truly, I tend to give the answer of being alone. But I've started to believe that I was born to be alone. I was born and made, and the only suitable mate for me is one that could be alone with me. But
What does that mean?
we can go into that in a minute.
To be alone
But-
with you. Okay.
But I think that my biggest fear now is not being able to move. Not being able to make something out of nothing. You know, you think of the phrase, you know, where does the magic happen? Well, for me, that's the mind, the intellect, the ration, the reason, the critical nature. That's where the magic happens for me, and that's where my strong points are. And when I'm just in the face of something that's unmovable and I can't move, that's what I'm afraid of. You know, I'm afraid of when I start making phone calls to everybody and no one picks up the phone. Because we take for granted that people pick up the phone when you call them, you know. But when I start making phone calls to people that I need to get in contact with, and no one picks up the phone, you know, if they just decide not to answer, then you're blocked. That's it. You can't do anything that involves them. So it blocks off an entire path, an entire series of steps that you could do. It's like a giant flowchart, you know. And it's kind of like I go through a series of, can I do this? If yes, then this. If no, then that. If yes, then this. If no, then that. But I don't want to ever corner myself and go, if no, then no. And there be nothing. And there's nowhere to go.
Do you think that sometimes in life, when we find ourselves at a locked door, that it is because we are to go through another door? There's another door that's open for us. So it's good that that door had been locked, or it's good that that person had not answered, because our pathway was being directed, and in our mind we went for them, but greater power wanted us to go somewhere else, and so that had to be closed, blocked, or locked for us to keep moving and get to. Do you feel that sometimes?
I think that's important, but I think it's also, you have to be very careful when you're interpreting God's word and you're interpreting how he's speaking to you and what he's speaking to you and how he's speaking it and when he's speaking it. And also to know that just because one door is closed momentarily does not mean that it'll stay closed. It does not mean that it should stay closed.
Right.
And I find myself in a position a lot of the times where I think that the doorknob on the door, when I grab it and I turn it and it's locked,
Right.
you know, maybe I just need to realize that the doorknob is hot first.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's a gap of knowledge that I need.
Mm-hmm.
And then that door opens. And the door opens when it's time, in the right time and place. You know, because you don't want to open a door and there be fire and brimstone inside and not have on your firefighter suit.
Right. Going at the wrong time, unprepared.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I think that a lot of people can think that God will open and close doors for us. But I think that that shouldn't be used as an excuse, and that you should still persevere. Because if God really doesn't want you to do something, then you're really not going to really be able to do it. It's not going to, it's sometimes, it's kind of a tricky territory, if you will, because you don't want to try to test God and say, okay, well, if you don't want me to do this, then you'll stop me, you know, but you don't want to give up on things, because sometimes if you try hard enough, you can really get what you want, and sometimes you needed to try hard and you needed to struggle, because that in itself can be a humbling experience.
Even with your journey to Emory, so much, I love it when you speak, because I'm always, you speak makes my wheels turn. So it's like I'm eventually keep a notepad near me, like your mom does, when you're talking, because this perseverance in this journey of a locked door is the premises of your testimony, you know, your story, your message, whatever you want to call it, that it could look the door could look locked, $40,000, $6,000, $7,000, that door is locked, you know, but at the same time, there are some doors that I thought you was going here when you talk about the knob. There's some doors I've gone to and the door was locked. Okay, the knob couldn't go left or right, but actually all I had to do was pull and it came open. And there's this door now. I know, I'm thinking about it right going to my office. That it's so it's closed so tight within the frame that even if you have to pull on it, even if it's even if it won't go to left or right. And so life is like that sometimes. It seems though that's what you did. That's what y'all did here. That's why you're at Emory. Because it seemed as though it was locked, but there was some pulling that was being done that said, it's not locked for you. You can come in. The others who come up here, they can't turn to left or right, and they just give up. And they say, okay, there's nothing that can happen there. But there was some pulling that took place in your favor. And some pushing. And you're now here at Emory. And you're at Emory 17 hours a semester, 5 classes. And you just completed your first week of the new fall 2014 semester. And you feel good about it. You're ready. You're charged. If you had to think of one word that you could say to yourself, or you could remember, in the midst of all your diagnosis, one word that could charge you, pump you, that you could say to yourself to remind you to keep pressing. What is that one word?
You gotta give me at least 3.
Okay, I'll give you 3.
I bought 2 more.
You bought 2 more. There you are.
Life is crazy.
Life is crazy, pumps you up and gets you going?
Yeah.
Explain that.
You have to understand that. You know,
I could take that. I'm thinking on a whole nother level now because I'm learning the way you are thinking. But even because of the way I think, I like to flip things. I can see how I can take something from life is crazy. But explain how I can get motivated from that. Tell me how you.
it puts me in my comfort zone, you know? Not caring too much, not caring too little. I care enough, but I give myself room. I give myself room and margin for error. And that's important. It's important to give yourself room for error because you have to realize that if you give 100%, that may be something like 50 or 60% better than the average, right?
I can see how I can take something from life is crazy, but explain how I can get motivated from that. Tell me how you.
It puts me in my comfort zone, you know? Not caring too much, not caring too little. I care enough, but I give myself room. I give myself room and margin for error. And that's important. It's important to give yourself room for error because you have to realize that if you give 100%, that may be something like 50 or 60% better than the average, right? But if you're just, if I always equate everything in my life to kind of swimming and the notion of moving through water and drowning and, you know, a series of ups and downs, you know. If you keep swimming in one direction and you're in a swim race and you're in a swim competition, I hear from every one of my friends that swims that they never know what their position is relative to themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, they never know where their opponents are relative to them during the race. They don't know until after the race is over and they've tagged up that, okay, that's the position that I got, that's what the position everybody else got, and what have you. And you can things can just work out. Sometimes they don't work out. But saying life is crazy is the same thing as saying it's okay to me. It's the same thing as saying it's gonna be okay to me. Because the truth is we live in a crazy world, and some crazy things happen, and I don't know.
I think I'm with you, man. I think that if you realize, because a lot of things we can best conquer or deal with if we understand it, and all I get understanding. So if you just understand that it's life. This is like a lot. I reference a lot of things that happen. I say, wait, man, that's life. And what we're saying is that, yeah, life is crazy, and if you realize that, if you realize life is crazy, then I don't have to get crazy. I can stay calm because I already know that's to be expected, or that
Exactly.
that will
You
come.
step out of the stream. You
Right.
step out of the rapids, if you
Right.
will.
Right.
You know, it's like if you know the water's rushing
And you're not so moved by it. You're not so
And-
disturbed by it.
and you're being dragged along by it, right?
Right.
Well, you can easily find yourself lost and not knowing where you are if you just get dragged along by it and you don't know you're getting dragged along by it. Like, take for instance like a rip tide or a rip current, you know. You never really know, like, oh wow, I'm this far away from the beach, and you know, I'm this far away from wherever I stayed at. And I'm kind of thinking tangentially here, but you know, when you know that that's what that tide is doing, or that's what that rapid is doing, you know, sometimes it may help to relax your body and then essentially to see where it takes you, and for you to be able to orient yourself relative to that stream. And really, everything is relative. But once you realize life is crazy, you can orient yourself from that position. And you can find a sense of stability once you realize that life is crazy, because then you can start to parse out what you think isn't crazy in life, and you can parse out what's not going to be crazy in life, and then you can acknowledge when you're being dragged up and dragged down and dragged from side to side and torn from piece to piece. And you know, this really don't be afraid of fear thing is really touched me, because it's only when you're afraid of fear that you're frozen.
You know, I just heard something else in that. Don't be afraid of fear. I heard something. A lot of times people tell you, and we know the word says, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind. A lot of times we're always hearing, don't be fearful, don't be fearful. You know, don't be, you know. This right here is saying, don't be afraid of fear. There are some good things that come out of, or maybe some wise things that come out of people who have a little fear. You know, they tend not to do certain things or go certain places because they fear that. There's so many different directions I could even go with that. I'm still hearing things. I'm getting downloads regarding that. It's gonna stay with me for a while. Don't be afraid of fear. You know, it's not saying don't be fearful. Don't be afraid of fear. And
Because fear is nothing to be afraid of. Fear is natural. Because there's something to be. Well, sometimes the smoke screen, yes, but I think that we can use our power of discernment to discern whether something should ultimately be something that causes fear in us. But I think that, for instance, feeling fear, when that fear is very real, you know, sometimes that fear keeps you going. Sometimes that fear gives you what you need to do to...
You fear failing.
Yes.
You fear losing. Does fear cause some people to eat right, eat vegetables, because they can fear help with that. I wonder the fear of, but see, you're so appreciative of your metabolism, so I'm just wondering if the fear of being malnutrition. Do you eat fruit?
Every time I go in the cafeteria, I grab a banana.
That's good. All right, for the monkeys. Yo, that's good. I've learned to appreciate bananas more. Nuts, grain, wheat,
Not really, no.
cereal.
Except on my buns.
So you eat what? Nuts and grain and wheat on your buns. Okay, with butter and honey.
No, with beef.
Oh, okay. You said that
They got some greens in there too. Some lettuce.
right. Oh, on your burger.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And pickles. Tomatoes?
No.
Oh
no.
man.
Not too far. That's about it.
Just lettuce?
Just lettuce. Just lettuce.
Okay, no spinach. I'm gonna buy you a sub one day.
Sometimes I try to put spinach on it.
Do you go to Subway sometime? If I buy you a sub, will you eat it?
If you gave me a gift card to Subway, I would go to Subway and I'll buy Subway.
And you buy cookies. I know. You buy cookies and, huh?
I've had some cookies sitting on my desk for the past week.
Okay, so what would you buy at Subway?
Probably one of those meatball subs.
With some lettuce.
Cause they're cheap. They're like $4.25.
Okay.
Six
With,
inch.
with some lettuce.
Mhm.
Okay. Alright. I'll treat you there to that one day. Okay. But as long as you get lettuce. You have to get 2 vegetables on there. You have to get lettuce and something. I'll pay for it, but it has to be 2 vegetables on there. And all you gotta do is eat it and I'll pay for it.
It's like a pizza. So that's the vegetable in itself.
Something you told your dad, very profound to every parent in the world. First of all, you say profound things to your family, around your family all the time. Your mom actually sat here and we was talking about how impressed I was with you and everything. She began to say something that you said, that she heard you say to James, your brother. And I said,
That's
okay.
probably something crazy.
And I was like, wow. She said, no. She said, no. He say things all the time. I wrote them down. She went and got a bag. She said, listen to it. And she wrote, and she began to read to me certain things that you said. I said, what? I said, yeah. And so I'm going to share some of those because it's your words. I said, does he know you do that? She said, yeah. I said, well, I'm going to do good. So I'm going to let him know that I'm going to share some of things.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a lecturer. I'll sit there and argue with James, and my mom would just pull out her notebook and just write stuff down, and she won't say anything. She'll just be writing. I'm like, yeah, you got that? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she said, you were saying, are you writing what I'm saying? You know, but it's that should be complimentary to you, you know, as long as you keep it in, you know, the humble range, meaning, but to also know that God has gifted you in spite of all the challenges you have and pressed through, that even with and how the enemy has tried to attack your mind, that you're still able to think critically, you're still able to say things that are so profound that even me here now listening to you, your one words or thoughts causes like an oasis of thoughts, you know, with me. And definitely, and for someone who birthed you in the world, for you to say something that's profound to them, that they want to write it down, you know, awesome. You are awesome, man.
That's crazy.
God is working awesome through you.
That's crazy.
And so you need to know that. You need to know that's powerful. You was once not here. You came into this world. You're 19 years old. In your 19 years, some profound things have transpired in your life that cause you to think the way you think. And then when you speak, it's like someone listening to Martin Luther King or like someone is listening to Maya Angelou. you have something to say. But you said to your dad, I think you said to your dad something to the effect of you have to ask people sometimes for help. Can you tell me about that? It blessed me. And
It's a pride thing. I have this big thing against. I come across as the most. I come across as a very prideful person, but not. I just come across as cocksure and cocky, and I can understand that, and it's and people have problems with that, and I didn't realize until I said yeah, pride is what keeps people a lot of the time from asking for help. Because when you ask for help, you have to admit that you're in need. And to admit that you're in need is to admit that you're weak in some way. And people don't like doing that, you know. It's not a psychologically comfortable thing to do. And we're lucky to live in a society where kind of like asking for help is kind of like the norm and the standard and what have you. But for my dad, since he was a physician, that was never the norm for him. It was never the norm for him to ask for help. But we had been in financial ruin for a long time, and things were just going downhill, and snowballing. And then I just started taking care of bills, and I started asking Dr. Livingston to help me out with some bills and stuff and what have you, and she was like, yeah, sure, you know, I'll take care of it. You just let me know. And she made it a point to let me know, to let her know whenever I needed something. And I made it a point to let my dad know that sometimes you have to let others know that you need help, because you know you have to let down that guard, and you have to be able to ask others for help. And this even on a spiritual level too, even asking God for help. You know we think we can do this and we can do that and we can do yada yada. But sometimes you have to just ask God for help, and He's going to be the one who's going to help you through it, and that's going to be the end of that. But it's a pride thing. It's a pride thing.
Powerful.
And that's I don't have much to say about that one, because that was something I see directly. I'm very, very certain about what I'm saying about that.
Powerful. The Bible tells us, asking we shall be given, seeking we shall find, knocking the door shall be open. We know that, and we'll say that, and we'll fail to do that because of pride. So therefore we'll fail to get and have everything we're supposed to have because of that pride. But I'm so thankful you shared your story. You shared with us today, man, and that you are walking in the harvest. You're walking in favor, and you shall continue to have every good, great, awesome, wonderful thing that God has for you, because you acknowledge Him, you know where it comes from, you're grateful for people that He put on your path, and you're persevering. Don't stop. Don't stop. The greater is yet to come for you, and it is coming. Thank you, man. Thank you.
No problem.
Seriously, man. Thank you. Dude, the way you say what you say is so low. No, this is Mike Edie all the way. You are.
The pain, the trials I've had to endure. You don't know my story. You don't know the day he
I was at my lowest point.
and I